But a quick reminder that summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use on everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the ballpark tonight. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And we're going to bring in Peyton Hillis in a sec. You remember him from his time on the Browns. He's also made headlines over the last year for saving a child from drowning. And before we bring on Peyton, here's a message from his foundation, the Peyton Hillis Foundation. Steve?
A former football star is fighting for his life after saving his young children from drowning.
Peyton Hillis, who is in critical condition after reportedly saving his kids from drowning in the ocean.
Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff, especially when you consider what Peyton has gone through. He's clearly committed to this cause. And with that, we bring in former Browns running back, former cover boy on the Madden video game. There he is, All-American hero himself, Peyton Hillis. Look at him. He's walking and doing an interview all at once. What's up, brother? Good to see you again.
Good to see you guys. How are y'all doing?
We're great. So we're going to talk football because obviously we have to. But I want you to sort of tell the story that actually you put your own life in jeopardy. As I remember it, you were very, very ill from the rescue attempt. Take us through the story. Tell us all about it and why you're so committed now to making sure that people have awareness of what can happen during these rip currents. And we lost a child in Ohio Friday up in the northeast corner of the state, up in Conneaut, and we had riptide warnings all week long. I was at the lake all weekend, and no one was swimming because these riptide warnings were in effect. Tell us about your story.
You know, I was in Cleveland just this past week, and I heard about that. And, you know, now that I kind of made this like a life pursuit, you know, I'm starting to see this more and more. And, you know, it's just a shame. But as far as it goes back to my accident, me and my family, we, you know, decided to go to Pensacola one New Year after New Year's and spend a few days. And I remember the night that we got there, it was a bad storm, and I didn't think much of it. You know, even growing up in the South, you know, I never heard much about rip currents anyway and what they could do. But the next morning, me and my family, me and all the women of my family, my mom, my sister, and my sister-in-law decided to take all the kids down to the beach and let them play. And I don't know, we were there for about 15, 20 minutes, and my son, Ori, he's the oldest of all the grandkids, and my brother's daughter, Camille, she was the second oldest, and they just were playing together. And, you know, it seemed like at one fell swoop, the tide took them out about another 50 yards.
Oh, my God.
And my mother, I mean, as everybody that has a mother, you know, every kid knows that horrid scream that a mother can give to just make you pop up and look.
Yeah.
And she was out towards the kids, and, you know, we saw them going under and going further out to sea. So I, at that time, I was building sandcastles with my other nephews, and I got up and hit the water right away and started to swim. And my niece, she was going out further than my son, and I keep telling her the hardest thing I ever had to do was swim past my son first to get. And you know, the look in his eyes were just like, you know, Dad, where are you going? And I knew that if I didn't do that, that my niece wouldn't have survived. And, you know, it was terrible because, you know, you're trying to think about how much time it was, but, you know, your adrenaline's going and you're swimming as fast as you can. And, you know, to me, remember how much time it was. You know, it couldn't have been that long, but it felt like forever. And I swam past my son and got to my niece, and, you know, she put her arms around me and she just kept on looking at me saying, you know, we're going to die. We're going to die. And I was like, honey, no, we're not going to die. Everything's going to be fine. And I don't know how much more time went by, but a gentleman on a boogie board and my sister who came out afterwards. I don't know how she got out there, but I took the boogie board from the gentleman and I gave it to my sister and to my niece, and I pushed them off. And at that moment, I knew that they were going to be okay. And so I swam back to my son, and as I got back to my son, you know, he was pretty much limp. And thinking to myself, like, God, please, you got to get here, you know, take me, don't take my son, whatever you do. And by the time that I got to him, I was in about 7.5 foot of water. And as the tide would go out, I'd be able to stand on my tiptoes and jump with him as I'm holding him. And when the tide came back in, you know, I'm pretty much trying to swim with one arm and holding his head above water. But the wave that, you know, I just kept on taking on water. And people, you know, always say, you know, when you're in a riptide, swim. Well, when you're holding a 140-pound kid, you can't swim anywhere. And, you know, you're stuck in one place. And, you know, it was just awful. An awful feeling. I think we were there for probably a good 10 to 15 minutes trying to stay afloat because nobody could get to it. And son, I mean, I don't know how, but it seemed like he got a new boost of energy. And after a little while, and I don't know, it seemed like we were slowly itching back toward the beach, even though we're about 100 yards out, 70, 100 yards out. And I just saw where the riptide was in front of me, and I saw where it wasn't. And he seemed to get his consciousness back. And I just threw him in front of me about 8 yards where he could get out of the rip current. And he popped back up and, you know, swam a little bit, then he could walk the rest of the way. But I was caught in it for a little bit longer. And as I made my way back to the beach, I already took in so much water, and I had kidney failure and lung failure. And I honestly don't know how. I remember myself passing out, but I kept telling myself I got to make it back, or, you know, I'm not gonna survive. And then I felt myself blacking out, and the water was, yes, between. And I remember losing sleep, walking for my girlfriend. She grabbed me, but, you know, was willing me to get up and move on, press on. Like, come on, you got to get up, babe. You got to get up. You got to get up. And I kept trying to get up, and she kept putting her arm around me and walked me out of the water. And I just remember right when I got to the beach, I felt like I could just flat out relax. And the scariest part of it all was right when I hit the beach, I thought it was dry, but the tide kept coming in and my face was just in the water and the sand, and nobody could flip me over. And I just remember at that point just blacking out. And then I woke up 10 to 12 days later on a ventilator, Cola. And, you know, hospital staff down there was incredible, amazing people. They really took care of me and they saved my life. And, you know, I'm very grateful for them. But that time in the hospital, you know, it was terrible because people always have stories about when they're under on a ventilator. That don't stop you from dreaming, and that don't stop you from feeling certain things. I hear people in the room talking at certain times, and I would have dreams of my son and my niece are dead on the beach, and I couldn't do anything about it. And then you're knowing why, but you hear people around you like, I don't know if he's going to make it. I don't know. And you can't talk. You can't do anything. Most miserable experience of my life. And, the only time I got any kind of relief is when I woke up and, everybody's around me and they're saying, Peyton, everybody is okay. And that was probably the only relief that I got. But, everything leading up to that point was just a miserable, miserable time.
Wow, I got to tell you, Peyton, there were parts of that, just momentarily, brief parts where the audio was dropping out. And even with that, that was probably five of the most compelling moments we've had in the history of the UCSS, because you're literally telling a life-saving tale where you had to make what I would only call Sophie's choice. That had to be the most gut-wrenching decision any human being can ever make.
It's a nightmare of all parents. You talk about your two kids are drowning. Which one are you going to save?
Exactly.
It's awful.
My God.
And, you're thinking to yourself, like, my brother would never live with me if I let my daughter die. I don't know how those things come into your head so fast, during those times, but it did for me. And it really is a miracle that nobody died. It truly was. But I'm very thankful that, if it had to happen to anybody, I'm glad it happened to me and nobody else.
Oh my gosh.
Did you think you're going to die in the water, or do you not let yourself go there because there's too much to do?
I'm not going to, at first, I don't know if it's the ego or pride in all men, but I kept on saying to myself, we're going to get out of this. And then about 10 to so minutes, like with my son, I'm like looking at the beach and I see everybody pointing at us and nobody's doing anything. And I'm holding my son and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to die, but he's not going to die. Got to get him out of here and figure it out. And, after that, it was pretty much just adrenaline after that point. And I'm telling you, there is no more hopeless of a feeling than holding your son, knowing you can't swim, stuck in one place, and knowing you got to do everything you can to keep him above water, and you can't do anything. And 1 minute seems like 20, 10 minutes seems like an hour and a half. It is terrible, terrible feeling.
Wow. Do you have any residual health effects? You said your organs were shutting down. Are you okay health-wise now?
At first they thought that I was going to have lifelong kidney damage, but dialysis after a couple weeks, or a few weeks after I woke up, they said that was pretty much okay. I wouldn't know, but I know my lungs will never be the same. I could feel that right away. I've had so much damage to my lungs to where, even a year and a half before that, almost died of COVID, and I had pulmonary embolisms, and so my lungs went through the grinder. But like I said though, I'm just happy that everybody survived, and if it had to, happen to anybody else, I wouldn't want that. I'm just glad it happened to me.
Were they ever able to measure how much water you took in?
Oh, yeah, in some sort, when they pulled me in, like my even my stomach and everything else was full of water, and it just, I looked like a big fat old man, because I had so much water in me, and I just didn't realize at the time how much water I was taking in. And I don't know about certain measurements of water, but I do know it was a whole lot.
Peyton, has it changed how you view life every day?
Yeah, it sure has. I decided to enjoy the little things in life instead of getting all carried off about the big things. And every day is a gift. Depends on how you want to use it. And, with my family and my loved ones, I mean, I don't think some people really understand, but, a life without your closest friends or family, if you don't have them in it and you don't do all you can to try to save a life or be there for the people that you love the most, this life isn't worth living anyway. That's just kind of the conclusion that I've came to.
This may be too personal, but do you still have nightmares over this?
Oh, I do. And I already have. I'm kind of a person that doesn't deal with failure too well. But, during some of those nights where you'll dream, and again, like you did in the hospital about, your loved ones are sitting there dying and there's nothing you can do. And the stress and anxiety that comes from that. And even inside the dream, it's a dream, but you still relive the feelings that you felt. And that's truly awful. But again, like I said, I mean, I'd rather have gone through all this, the traumatic experiences, than my son or my niece. They seem to be doing great, a lot better. And I think it's because they were probably too young to really know. But only time will tell, and we'll see what happens.
I'm just wondering if, because of the fact you were, earlier in your life a world-class athlete, did that help your lung capacity to survive both COVID and this? Like, if it happened to me, I'm dead. But
I've been reading about a lot of experiences that people have had, having the same situation happen to me. Their wife gets caught and they run out, or their kids get caught and, their fathers go out and try to save them. And a lot of the time they don't survive. I would say 80-90% of the time.
Wow.
Lucky to be alive. But I mean, whenever I get in a body of water, I just sink anyway. I don't float. And so when I was out there in the ocean, I know it's a little bit different out there, but, I just think it was 100% adrenaline. I mean, as you can see now, I'm not in the best shape, but, I think any man would amaze themselves if their loved ones are in jeopardy, what they're capable of.
Do you consider yourself a strong swimmer? I mean, I just assumed, yes, that you were a really good swimmer, but would you consider yourself a strong swimmer before this?
I can swim, and I can, but I mean, as like I said before, with my body weight the way it is and how I sink, try to stay above water with a 140-pound kid. I don't think anybody's a strong swimmer.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people that just didn't have the strength to hold somebody up would have died. I don't care if you're Michael Phelps. If you don't have the strength to hold somebody up in the water with yourself,
my goodness,
it's not going to end well.
Peyton, I'm wondering, I'm sure you had tremendous relationships with your brother and your son and your niece. I'm wondering how this incident has impacted those relationships. I can't imagine there being stronger bonds.
Well, definitely stronger bonds, that's for sure. We try to not bring it up as much as possible around the kids, just because we don't want them reliving through anything. And, we're a tight-knit family anyway. We're very close, and we all know that we would do anything and everything for our family and for each other's kids and so forth and so on. I keep telling people that ask me, I don't look at my nieces and nephews as less than my own kids. They mean just as much to me as my own kids. And, and I think, as terrible as it was, it's nice to know for my brother and my family that what I did in the heat of the moment and went after his kids first instead of my own. And, and I'm not there to toot my own horn with any of that. It's just, I know I'm empathetic when it comes to other people's feelings and what they might feel, instead of, my own selfish goals when the rubber meets the road.
I don't know how many people would make that decision.
That's a tough one.
Like I said, I'm not saying anything good to toot my own horn, but it wasn't a rash decision. I mean, everything was thought out in the heat of the moment, and I really think the Lord really just settled my heart during that time, so I could make the right decision. And I don't give no credit to myself.
Peyton, tell us a little bit about your foundation. And we saw the message there, and it's always top of mind for folks here in Cleveland because, our rip currents here on Lake Erie, when I was a young boy, 12, I lost a 3-year-old cousin at an Ohio beach with a rip current. And it pulled her out so fast, nobody even knew where she was. And she wasn't able to be saved. I've known my whole life, and because of that, my family drilled it into our heads. You may think you're strong and physical and athletic. The water never loses. And
no, it doesn't.
I'm wondering how your message is being disseminated, and tell us a little bit about what the foundation does to this end.
Well, just more to your point, people have to respect the water. People have to respect Mother Nature and what it can do. And, they feel like, just because they're at a resort on the beach that nothing can happen out, in the water a couple 100 feet. But, with my foundation, we're making it, our number one goal and priority to save 100% of lives that we come into contact with this technology. And, we have thousands of hours of beta testing to prove that it would. And, we realize that more people die of drownings than they do with hurricanes, tornadoes, all other natural disasters or disasters combined. And, one of my teammates, Ryan Mallett, passed away 6 months after I drowned.
Right.
Yep.
University of Arkansas. I mean, we just saw this past weekend down in Destin too, or Fort Walton, where one kid got his arm bit off by a shark and a leg, and the other mother got her pelvic bit off, and they're in, critical condition there at the same hospital I was at.
Wow.
And, we have a system to where we can detect sharks and rip currents and have life-saving devices that come out to you if you are in trouble. And, I just know as a father and as a parent, if I was at a resort that used this technology, that I would feel so much safer with my family and my kids being there. But it's like I said, though, it's called the Peyton Hillis Foundation, and we would love if anybody can help donate so we can get started up at beaches all around the Panhandle. And if people find it in their heart to donate, we would be very appreciative.
Wow. Very, very, very well said. Peyton, thank you. And I know it can't be easy to relive that story, and I'm sure you've done it hundreds of times, but we certainly appreciate it. I'm sure everybody in our audience is just like us here. We were completely at the edge of our seat hearing you go through the details. We've got to ask you about three things before we let you go. Browns team this year. We're going to also ask you about Jim Donovan, and if you have any thoughts on Jimmy's retirement from Channel 3 here. And we also have to ask you about this famous deer in your trunk story that Leroy Horde loves to tell us. But let's start with the Browns. I know you still follow them. Where are you on the team? Is this roster capable of winning a Super Bowl?
2 years ago, I thought they were at their best to win the Super Bowl, and they did a great job, losing. I mean, they should have beat the Chiefs even in the semifinals there, and that kind of crushed me. Last year, I think it'd have been the same story if Chubb would have stayed healthy. I still have questions about the quarterback position. Even though Watson's there, I don't know if he's, really the man for the job. But that's just my opinion. I hope he proves me wrong. I think we have an amazing head coach. I think we did the right thing by extending his contract. I think Cleveland's an identity, and Cleveland is a place to where, it's like Pittsburgh, it's like Baltimore, but we got to stick to our identity, which is a strong defense, and we run the football.
Right.
And I really believe if we stick to that identity, we're going to be a team to where we're going to do great things in the future, win those big games. And I really hope Chubb can come back healthy. I haven't really heard too much about how, efficiently he's healing up. But he's one of the greats that's ever been there. And, as far as defense coordinator, we're set there. It's just about doing what Cleveland does best. And, that's what I'm looking forward to, us making that decision in the future.
Very good. What thoughts on Jim Donovan? I don't know how close you were with Jim, but he was obviously the voice of the Browns for your years here. He's walking away from us here at Channel 3, but he's going to continue calling Browns games. What are you have a message for Jimmy you'd like to send out to him as he says goodbye to Channel 3?
I would have to say, great run. Congratulations, and how blessed you are to cover one of the greatest teams that's ever lived. And I know that he feels the same way. And, to all Browns nations, I hope that everybody realizes the effort and the time that he put in to try to make this, a great organization as well.
Yeah, before we end with the Deer story, I got to ask you, I love asking guys who were on the Browns during some of those crazy years. What's the best story you can tell us that isn't out there that you don't know about from just Browns being Browns?
Yeah. You know what? That's really hard to say, not knowing what people know about and don't know about, because y'all just told me a story about me having a deer in my trunk that I didn't think nobody would know about.
Hey, with Leroy Horde, there are no secrets, brother.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know what y'all. Well, that kind of scares me to talk about.
All right, what's the deer in the trunk story?
Oh, crap. There was a deer out of property that I could hunt, and, after every Monday and Tuesday we would have off, so I would go out hunting. And, at the time I traded in my truck, or I sold my truck, and I was driving I believe it was a Range Rover from a dealership. And crap, I killed it, and I thought to myself, crap, I still got to get him back. So I put a tarp in the back and threw the deer in the back of the truck. They called me, come back to the facility for a minute. I had to do some treatment, and I don't know how. I just showed a couple of buddies, like, hey, look what I got. But it seems now, so I don't know.
I wish there was video of you picking this deer carcass up and lifting it into the back of your Range Rover.
Yeah, you're not going to do that every day.
Those things are heavy.
No, I know. Yeah, there's probably one player in the NFL at that time capable of doing it, and it was Peyton Hillis. Now, what did the dealer say when you drove the Range Rover back to his dealership and you had to explain a little bit of blood in the back?
That's funny. This wasn't my first time to do this in a vehicle kind of like that, believe it or not. And there wasn't a drop of blood anywhere, and he never did know, so that was good.
That's incredible. Yeah, because that could have been an awkward conversation. No, I promise It's a deer. Hey, Peyton, I think that you would be a great subject for a reality show. You're just...
Oh, God.
You're a man's man. You're clearly an outdoors guy. Your story would be the first chapter of the reality show, Series 1, and it would captivate everybody in the audience so much, they would say, I've got to see how this dude lives every day. So get your agent on that.
Well, you know what? We would win all kinds of awards, because if people knew me, my friend, crap. It would do... what's those guys down south? The Duck Commander.
Yeah.
What is that?
Duck Dynasty.
Duck Dynasty.
Yeah, we would blow those fellas out of the water. Ain't no doubt about it. Yeah,
well, I guarantee you, the ratings in Cleveland would be through the roof, because they love them some Peyton Hillis. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but I'm going to call back to it. The year you were on the cover of Madden, you and Mike Vick came up to ESPN when I was working there, and you did the car wash. You went through all the shows, and we had you on First Take. And we basically were saying, okay, this is their platform, and we wanted voters to cast the appropriate votes. And I tried my best to be as neutral as I could when I interviewed the two of you, but I couldn't hide my Browns fandom. And I said something at the end of the segment like, Browns fans, let's show the world and Madden Nation how many of you there are out there. And we looked up the vote just now because I couldn't remember how much you won. You won in a landslide, 2 votes to every one that Michael Vick got. What was that whole experience like, you being the cover boy for the most popular video game ever?
You know, that's probably the most humbling experience I've ever had, only because, you know, who would ever think that I could beat Michael Vick in a vote anyway? But that just shows how much all Browns fans, all the Brownies thought of me, and you know, that really put me in a place to where after that point I've always had a big piece of my heart for Cleveland, and I always have, and I still will. You know, it's like a home away from home, and they've always loved and supported me and throughout everything that I've been through. And, you know, I'm so blessed to, you know, to call myself a Brown and to be a part of that family.
Hey, Peyton, my wife just texted me while we're doing this interview. Apparently she's watching. She already made a donation to the Peyton Hillis Foundation.
There we go.
So you got our support, buddy. Keep doing great work out there.
I appreciate that, guys. And thank you for having me on. And let's hope that great things are in the future for our Brownies.
Absolutely. And we'll watch you on the reality show. I can't wait to watch it. Peyton Hillis Life. Peyton, great catching up with you. And if you're back in Cleveland for any Browns games this year, let us know because we'd love to have you in studio. We need more of these stories that we're not sure the world knows about yet.
A lot of these stories are rated R even. They're probably even more.
That's okay. Hey, we're a
This is
streaming
YouTube.
show. We're a streaming show. We can say whatever the hell we want.
We're ready then.
All right, Peyton. Great catching
Thanks,
up.
Peyton.
Thank you. What a guy.
Yes,
You
sir.
know what? There's a lot of guys that have played here that are just what you would say cut from Cleveland cloth.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's it. He's the poster child,
what
man.
What a story.
Yeah,
What a story.
Just an absolute incredible, what a hero.
Yeah.
And I know you were thinking in real time as you were watching this, niece or son. I was thinking that in real time.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But you know what? It was the right call.
Yeah.
It all worked out. But I don't know how you live with yourself with any other conclusion than the one that happened. And
I was getting choked up listening to him.
I was too.
Like when he said, I'm going to die, but my son's not.
Oh, my God.
It took me back to like the John Q scene of my son is going to live.
Yeah, and yes, that's right. And the look he got on his son when he
Yeah.
swam past his son,
Yeah.
and his son with his eyes said, "Dad,
Where are you
what are
going?
you doing?
What
Where are you
doing?"
going?"
Yeah. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Just if that's a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, and certainly I would watch a reality show with that guy because you know damn well there
look-
is so much there.
The smile on his face when you brought up the deer in the back of the truck story, and you could see the real life. Oh shit! I didn't know anyone else knew about that. And the fact he said it's not the first time he's had a car like that he's done that in. We got to get Peyton. In
You
the
know
studio
what
when
he's
he comes
doing
in.
right now? He's on the phone right now with Leroy Horn. That was crazy.
Because they didn't overlap at all, not even close. They were generations apart.
But somehow,
and Leroy knew about
some
it.
way,
That's
Leroy was
funny.
there.
That's funny.
Wow, wow, wow. All right.
All right, we're gonna move on. It's tough to move